episode of Jiujiteiras. I'm Babs.
I'm Katie.
And we are here recording live in our new studio space. So we're pretty excited. For those of you who've been following us, we started back, isn't this terrible? I already can't remember.
My basement.
Yeah, exactly. In your basement last summer. And anyways, we then started to get guests, moved to my basement, and the dreams for kind of growing the actual space for the podcast. We then got the backdrop, had to move upstairs, and anyways, finally have a space here that we can now just come and be and do the show, which is awesome, and have people come to us without 2 hours of setting up and tear down.
Yeah.
Which is pretty awesome. So anyways, we're very happy to be here today. We don't have a guest today, but we figured we would just come together, get caught up as to what's been going on, in the East Coast here, New Brunswick, what's going on here for us in jiu-jitsu. For myself, I've had a little bit of a break from jiu-jitsu. I took a couple of months off and then have started to get back into it. So for any of you that feel anxiety around the breaks that you may take or life getting in the way, don't give up. I back into it last week and then also trying to get a healthier lifestyle diet-wise and so on. But yeah.
That's natural. I think it's good to see that aspect of it, because I think we put a lot of pressure on ourselves to always be on the mats and doing that kind of stuff. Sometimes life happens. So don't beat yourself up. I don't think there's any shame for taking a little step back and then getting back on the mats. As long as you come back, we just want to see you back.
I know. And it's funny, the psychological stuff that rolls through your head, because where I'm only a 2-stripe white belt, which is still a wonderful thing. The white belt, a lot of people say enjoy the journey.
Yeah.
But then I always get that anxiety around, crap, if I'm not doing this, it's not going to stick, right? Because once you get to your level, brown belt, purple belt, blue belt, it's kind of like you have those fundamentals, and it's like, if you go off for a little bit, do you lose that much versus me who's earlier on in the journey? So
yeah. Consistency is important, but if life happens and takes you away from training for a little bit, main thing is that you come back, and we're always welcome to see you come back. That's the main thing.
Yeah.
But
it's funny how that is, because I would say that to somebody else. Oh, don't worry about it. Just come back. But
we're always the person to beat ourselves up the most. Yeah.
Which actually is kind of cool. Leads us into, I know Katie has read it last year sometime, so it's a little bit farther away in her memory. Yeah. But I did read this book, The Brave Athlete, Calm the Bleep Down. And anyways, you had picked it up for a different reason. We were at a Women That Fight seminar back last summer, and there was a lady there that she's a competitor, read this book, absolutely loved it, recommended it. Of course, Katie competes, does a lot of training. So you had picked it up for the injury aspect of it.
Yeah, I was speaking with Sarah, and just had mentioned I'm not an high level competitor like her, but I have played around a little bit, and I was saying how my biggest fear with competition is injury. I feel like that's I don't go as hard as I should in competition, and my biggest fear is getting injured. And she's like, actually, you need to read this book. There's a chapter on that. She's like, you're more prone to injury going into competition with that fear. So that this book touches on that. And it's a really interesting aspect. I feel like the hippie side of me recognizes what we manifest in our lives. And it's basically that, but in a more scientific term. So it was a really good book, really good read.
Yeah. And it obviously, you're still training and you're still moving forward. So the fear of injury hasn't taken over you. So there was some stuff that you were able to take away from it, which was good.
For sure.
It's a fun read. For myself, I don't consider myself an athlete. I don't train to the intensity like you do. I have never competed. Not to say that I won't someday, but so my lens was a little bit different, reading through it. But I did love, because it's two authors. There's the neuroscience fella, and then there's the athlete. So it's a husband and wife combo, which was kind of cool to the back and forth of the two of them. And I really loved the brain stuff. I thought that was kind of fun. Why do we do the things that we do? I always love what's what neurotransmitters, all of that, the chemicals running through us that kind of dictate or kind of not dictate, but just kind of like steer us in these different directions. So I found that the parts that really resonated with me were more of the habits that are built around it. Because I'm reading these athletes' story, and I'm not a triathlete. I don't plan on doing any triathlons.
Me either, for the record.
They should have some more stuff with some jiu-jitsu people, right? That would resonate more, right?
Yeah.
Hopefully they'll write a second book. But yeah, it was a lot of fun that way, and just kind of making me aware of some of my habits. So in saying like, I took a little bit of time off, frustrated, wanting to get my health back in check, like what are some things that I need to do? So reading that was actually really good because it was talking about like the different triggers, because it really breaks down the different brain functions, but they did the neuroscience stuff, but then did it in kind of a fun way. So I guess one of the things that just sticks with me, because it was through the whole book, was breaking down like the different parts of your brain. So we think of the front part of it as like our prefrontal cortex, which is what they call the professor brain, right? It's the higher level thinking, complex ideas, like the logical side of us, right? When we're faced with different decisions. And then you have like the limbic system, which is like your ancient side of your brain, the amygdala, hippocampus, all of the emotional temperature regulation, all of that stuff that kind of connects the rest of your body. And they call that the chimp brain because it's kind of your fight, flight, food, or fornication part of the brain. So which the chimp in all of us, that side really can dictate, do we sit on the couch and eat the sleeve of cookies? Do we get up and take that test? Do we, all of those things. So it really resonated with me. And then there's the third part, which is kind of like controls our memory bank, so to speak, the computer brain, right? Because you can just go into the data and, where have I found this, or what files do I have? So it was kind of cool that all the chapters spoke to the chimp, the professor, that fight against each other. Like, you need to get up and do that workout, or else you're never going to get in shape. And then the chimp's like, but I want to sleep in because I want to be comfortable. And just like, I'd rather just binge watch a Netflix show. So from that aspect on my part, but that's what resonated with me. But I'm sure for the higher level athletes trying to figure out like how to manage their day. So anyways, it was a really fun read. It was great. I also listened to an audio book too, because part I was able to read some of it and the other I was in the car and I'm like, I might as well finish this book. So I'll just listen to the audio part of it.
They're super handy. I love audio. I don't always have a lot of time where I can sit and like flip a book, although that is like more satisfying to me than the audio. But like having a hot bath and all that, and then being able to listen to a book is really good too.
Yeah. But I think that, with the break, it's given me a little bit of a new kind of inspiration for how to get to class, like how to incorporate more. So like getting up in the morning and not fighting with my chimp brain anymore, just trying to coerce it to like, this will be a good idea if you just do these things. So then that way I can feel better and be more consistent with training. Because I know there's plenty of you out there that have struggle and weighing, and whether it's family or work obligations or just like your own mental like barrier. Because I find even for me that happens, that anxiety over stepping onto the mats or getting into class, and then the chimp brain, you start to say, well, you could take today off. It'll be okay if you take today off.
No.
And I have
I don't know which. So what am I? Am I the chimp, the professor, or which one am I?
I would say that you have your chimp in check.
Okay, yeah.
Because you have
I cannot miss
you
class.
have them on board to train. Because I would say, and that's the thing. Like I see your accountability buddy, right? Social media for some, it's like that accountability buddy, because you post like, I'm in class.
Yeah.
I do my after training like workout. And I look at that and there's days where I'm like, I'm always happy for you. I'm like, yes, she's doing it. But then I'm like, crap, but I didn't do anything.
I'm hopefully motivating people.
Well, it is for sure.
So, I feel in ways I'm like kind of a loser because that's all I do, as I'm always on the mats. If I'm not at work, I'm on the mats. Although I will say, yeah, I do. I guess, yeah, I get out into nature a fair amount. And then yesterday I got together with a group of girls that train jiu-jitsu. They're in the women's only program. And we we get together outside of our gis. It was kind of nice to see everybody and not stinking and sweaty, and our hair was kind of done. So it was kind of nice. And it was interesting. I realized the value of getting together outside of the gym element with this, like the people that you do train with, because a couple of the girls, we were talking about how, it's so intimidating in that space. And especially as a new person starting jiu-jitsu, it's hard to like not rush through some of the warm-ups or some of the drills because you feel like you're in other people's way or what have you. That was one of the things that came up in our discussion yesterday. And I was like, no, I was like, take that space. Like you own it. Like it's yours. Cause we were saying with some of the drills, like when we're doing like down the line, one of the girls was saying how she feels like, oh, I feel like if I don't get the move right away, I don't understand it right away. And you've had that same experience where
absolutely
you're kind of holding other people up, but like, so what?
Yeah.
Like that's what we're there for, is to learn. If it takes you an extra minute or, like you deserve to be there too.
Absolutely.
So sometimes it's cool for people to get together outside of the gym element and like have discussions about the gym. Again, I'm just painting myself as a loser because it's like my whole life revolves around jiu-jitsu, judo.
But that's not a loser thing. That's your passion.
So yeah, it
right?
is. Yeah.
And, you live and breathe that. I mean, think about all the friends you have made through jiu-jitsu.
Yeah.
Right? Like long-term relationships. And and your husband does jiu-jitsu and
True.
judo. So it's like those who train together stay together.
I guess. Yeah.
So it's a good
I just
thing.
don't know if I'm promoting like a healthy balance.
Well, and I suppose the other aspect too is like your career depends on your ability to one, have a strong sense of self-defense, as well as, being strong,
Confident.
healthy. Exactly. Yeah. So, as we've spoken before in other episodes, just like jiu-jitsu does give you that autonomy, that self-confidence, right? Because you are learning a new skill. And when you have that, right, that's a layer on yourself of your capabilities, right? So when you start from nothing and you're like, whereas you have, over a decade of layers of that training and technique. So it's,
I suppose that's a good way to look at it too.
So it's built into your life. So for me on the outside looking in, I'm like, wow, that's so amazing. She's so dedicated to it. I don't look at it as like, man, she's unhealthy. She's in a cult. Right? I see it as like, it all intertwines with your lifestyle, with your career. You're passionate about it. You promote it. You think about all the time you've given to doing women's classes at different clubs, and now on to teaching judo, like jiu-jitsu for judo for women. So it's, you've taken that to the next step. Like where else can I grow from here? So
it's neat to see too with jiu-jitsu how like it adds on to your skills. So it's not just about doing jiu-jitsu, but learning the next aspect of it, of being able to teach it and just promote it in different ways.
Absolutely.
That brings us to Rogue. That's coming up.
Yes,
that's exciting.
Yeah. So there'll be, in the maritime scene, there's a lot of great promotional companies around. You've got, unfortunately, one of the owners, Rogue Grappling, which is coming out. And then there's, I know I'm going to miss a few, but you've got like Breakthrough and you've got Icon and you've got East Coast Grappling. So there's a lot of, and then there was recently
growth.
the ADCC in Montreal
that
just took place. So, there's people flocking everywhere. So people that my teammates at my club and your club and just, traveling all around to get to different places to these tournaments. So, for those, wherever you are, check out the scene. And that another part in the book that I thought was kind of cool, just bringing that back to like tournaments, was talking about like the intimidation and the fear of like tackling that next goal. It said, be a spectator. So I thought that was really cool, because if you think about these tournaments that are around you, like even if you're like, I'm never going to compete, like go to one, be there, like check it out, see, like
feel the energy.
Right?
You had mentioned earlier when we were talking about the chapter that covers like your alter ego and like listening to certain music to kind of amp you up. And it reminded me of Kyle Sleeman, a fella that I met at one of the Globetrotter camps.
Right.
And he was saying like he sees that in some people and that's maybe what motivates them. But he likes to go and like take in all that energy and use that to like fuel himself for his his competition or matches. So it's kind of neat to it really does kind of give you some insight as to what motivates you and what aspects of it are more about different parts of the brain.
Right. And what's natural to you too, what resonates, right? Because I've seen at different tournaments where you have the guys with the hoods up or the females with the hoods up and their headphones in and whatever it is, their hype music. And they're just like, I'm in the zone. I'm in the zone, right? Whereas like you said, and other people are just like taking it all in, wanting to talk to people. Like they'll look for those positive people that are just like, okay, they're hype people, right? Yeah. So, and then you have ones like at our tournaments that they're on the mats roughing and it's like, oh crap, it's time for me to go on. So they don't even have time to like mindset it, right? Like John Kelly, like he'll be just flipping, or Mike Melvin. Like,
that's so cool.
We have people that, that ref and volunteer for us that are, again, believe in the community and also practice and are, so it's, anyways, it's really cool to see. But yeah, I thought that was kind of neat. Like just, okay. And what it made me think of is like all the years that we've had Rogue, and I, doing scorekeeping, I'm behind the scenes and I have been watching and I always would feel inspired, like, oh, I should get into jujitsu. Oh, this is so cool. I should do it. And that how many years it took me to actually do it. So it is true. Like that mindset. So someone else going for a different sport or even now, like I said, I would never compete. And now I'm like, maybe before I'm 45.
That'd be cool.
Like,
that's
but
a
again,
nice goal to make.
Right.
That's really
so
nice.
It's like, give me another year into this and get a feel for like what my game is. Right. And then I can.
That brings me to a question. Do you think Rogue will ever create a master's division?
That's a good question.
That'd be fun.
Yeah.
I would appreciate a master's division.
I think about like, there's so many different ways that like, depending on what the community needs are.
Yeah.
Because I think about when we first started and we actually were in Nova Scotia versus New Brunswick because we couldn't actually hold tournaments just because of rules and regulations around for like the sports. And then seeing it and being like, oh, we have like 120 people, 150. And now we've been capping them at like 270.
Wow.
These events. So it's like, and having to turn people away. So it's grown so much that now you have other people coming into the space and like other companies being created, which is super cool because it's like the demand is there, the growth is there, people want this. So I know we've talked about different like, Grand Prix wasn't like when we first started, right? Like that wasn't a thing. And then that evolved into, okay, the best of the best, right? So then we have this once a year tournament, which is just invite only. And it's, you've been to our events and you've won, and then you get a chance at the belt, right? Because people love that prestige, like their assessment of like, where do I stand, right? Not everybody does, but some just like want to go out there and just put themselves out there, whereas others, they have this progression of like, I need to hit these tiers, or if they're moving further into bigger and broader, like this is going to be their career,
right?
So it's pretty cool. So not to say there won't be a master's, in the future, right? Because again, what people come to us and we want to listen to what the community is saying, what they'd like to have, and then where can we give back into that. So yeah.
I suppose with growth, you'll start to see more like older competitors, and that creates the opportunity for it too.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you've seen like even just the kids, and then we've been really trying to promote and see more growth in the women's as well. I know like our dream would be to like, have all women refs and women on the mats, like just, you know what I mean? Like during the tournaments, like during the day, to just see more and more, because it can be a challenge where, you're competing against some of your teammates sometime, and like the pool, depending on, well, who has signed up. Right. Oh, well, if I see more women there, more in my category, then they're more willing to put themselves out there. So I'd really love to see that growth as well. And then the kids as well, just because then they're growing up through and experience it. Yeah. So there's a lot. And we just recently bought a fourth mat because we had 3 mats, and then it's, all the stuff that comes with it, right? Because you've got the fourth mat, the computers, the TV and everything, because we want to have the same like consistent product across the board. So that's helped a lot too.
That's nice.
We also want to provide a service that's not all day long, like to try to shorten the gap in the day too, because it is a big commitment for everybody. It's a commitment for us. It's a commitment for people traveling. They're driving their whole day, families, friends, like coaches. So whatever we can do to just make it, make it a great day and as like efficient as we possibly can. So
yeah. And that's noticeable with Rogue. I feel like any feedback I've ever heard about Rogue is always, it's so well organized and people kind of have an idea going in already what the brackets are and that sort of thing. So,
well, Christopher is the mastermind behind Smooth Comp. He knows all the people. So for him, he can just dive right in and be like, okay, moving this person to this bracket because he builds them all at the end. And, between Josh and Christopher, like with their connections, because I'm just like the outsider coming in. I've been a part of it all and working behind the scenes, social media, doing the registration, scorekeeping, all of those things. But since really being into it more, like I do take on more, but have the relationships and know. So running that aspect, it's pretty important. So you need a pretty good, well-oiled machine.
Yeah. It's nice that you have paved the way because there are other organizations that are coming up now. And it's way more work than I would have ever thought to organize the brackets, all the equipment that's necessary, round up all the refs. Like there's so many team players that are required to make that work. So very, very cool.
Yeah, you need a lot of people, and we're so very grateful, again, with the jiu-jitsu community, wherever you are, volunteer at tournaments. Like if you hear people that need it, like you learn how to scorekeep. There's the systems. Most people use Smooth Comp across the board. The scorekeeping system's pretty easy to navigate, and you get to sit like ringside, essentially, like all the matches. So we're so grateful that so many people just want to get out and help. Like, where can I help? Can I come? And the carrying stuff, like packing up and tearing down too, like people will stick around, and it's really appreciative because it's just like living that. We couldn't do it without all the help that we get, right? Like you have the people that we do the background stuff and all the organizing and making sure things are, that run smoothly, but the feedback from people and the additional hands-on really, really make it what it is. So yeah.
Love that.
It always gets inspiring, which is another reason of like, I got to get training, like this event's coming up and, we're doing this podcast and there's a certain level of like, I can't run a jiu-jitsu podcast with you and not do jiu-jitsu.
Well, I always love seeing you on the mats, but you're still involved in that community even when you are having those setbacks and as far as like getting on the mat. So, don't beat yourself up.
Oh, I know. We all do it in different ways.
Yeah.
I'm sure, we all have our stuff that it's like the baggage that we carry. But yeah, I think the biggest thing, community, consistency. So my internal, like getting myself consistent.
Get that monkey under control.
Right? Feed it some cookies or something, which by the way, I've cut refined sugar out and it's day 12. So I'm just like, it's going to hit me at some point that I'm going to just want to like eat my arm off or stab somebody for a chocolate bar or something.
I start my day with some sort of sweet, so don't look at me for motivation.
I'm super jealous of that. I'm like, I wish I could eat cake for breakfast.
Yeah.
But yeah, just one thing I've noticed is just like the clarity, and then also the hunger fluctuations where I'm trying to eat more protein because he's like the meme world everywhere. It's like, eat more protein. And we talked about that, I think, with Lauren a little bit too, like our health and women's health and stuff. And women don't get enough protein. So that's one of the things that I'm trying to turn the dial up on, get rid of the sugar, still eat fruit and carbohydrates, whole foods. Like I'm not killing myself, but it's just to be able to have better energy. So again, I don't get to the end of the day, I'm like, I have nothing left in the gas tank. So yeah.
We, as you say that, it's interesting because that was one of the topics we were talking about at dinner the other night. Amanda's a nutritionist. Like we have to get her on here.
Yeah.
Runs her own gym.
Yeah, Amanda, we're going to have you come on.
For sure. Yeah. So, and it plays a key part in jiu-jitsu. I had spaghetti the other day before training. Never a good idea. I knew that before. I've done that multiple times, so I don't exactly get the,
I've learned vicariously through you folks, like Christopher having thrown up and other people telling stories of just being like, oh, it was terrible. Like, why did I do this? So
I've never puked on the mats. I just jinxed myself right there. But I have on a number of occasions had something heavy to eat before I've trained. And every time I'm like, I know better. And yet I'm still here.
Right. Me, I'm like, my cutoff's 4:00. Class is at 7:30. like the last snack I'm gonna have to hold me over, and then it's like, and then I turn down the water. I'm like pumping in the water in my system, and then I slow down because I don't want to have to, one, be digesting food, or two, being like, I gotta go to the bathroom. Just hold on a sec. I'll be right back.
Yeah. No, it's smart.
Because I've heard so many stories.
It's like, oh,
I'm sure you've heard
why
many
am I
more.
the way I am?
I've had pizza today, or I've had spaghetti. Don't push on my belly.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I know Christopher's gone and I've chugged a few times, drank too much water. So he was like, don't chug the water during class. Even if you feel super thirsty, just sip. I'm like, okay.
You can hear it like sloshing around in your stomach sometimes. Like when I do chug water while I'm at jiu-jitsu, but it's kind of funny when you can hear it.
You love, you love living on the edge.
I know. Push my limit. Yeah.
And your club too has had some renovations in it as well.
Yeah,
So
the wall has come down. It's very exciting. And then, no offense to the guys, but the mats were all like EOD. There was no pattern for like the longest time. And I was like talking myself through like, all right, doesn't matter. It's no big deal because we're getting more mats. So we're going to expand the mat space. So there's no point in moving everything. But eventually my OCD gets the better of you. Yeah, it did. So I stayed a little late one night after Pat stand up for judo or stand up for BJJ class and organized it at least into like somewhat of a
better formation,
logical pattern. Yeah. So, but no, exciting. It's nice to see like the changes and how everything's kind of growing and different things like that.
Yeah. Well, yeah, because the way the club worked is there was like kind of like an L shape area, and then there was the wall up, and then there was like kind of another training area,
like a warm-up room. Yeah.
Right. So
I do miss the warm-up room, but the added space when you're actually training is so much more. Like if you have to give and get, and the added space is
worth it.
Yeah.
So any of you at clubs where you can kind of poke and prod and be like, hey, we should do this, and I'll help.
Knock a wall down.
Right? Volunteer to paint or clean or whatever, right? Because that'll help club owners to be like, okay, we can do this, right? So I know our space, like we had just recently, well, it was painted. My days just all blur together. So like the beginning of the year or end of last year.
Looks so nice.
It is. It was, it needed it was kind of like filled in the space, and the walls were what they were. And anyway, so it looks awesome now. So
it's kind of the same with us moving from basement to our own space, and the same with like your academy. Like just watch that growth if you've been with them for any length of time, and see just that like everybody come together and like you're slowly improving the space.
It's true. Yeah. It really is. Cause I think about, not that I was in it, but you would have started out on Bayside, right?
Yeah.
Did you come into it then? So like,
so the girls changed in like creepy bathroom down the hall.
Yeah. So this, what they could afford space, and then it moved to Westmoreland. So then it was like a bigger
first
space.
Women's changing room.
Yes, first women's changing room. That's right.
That was exciting.
And then to Bentley, right? Is there a space I'm missing in between?
No.
1, 2, 3. So
because Bentley is 3.0.
Right.
That's right.
Yes. Yes. So it's like.
But now that the wall came down.
Is it 3.5?
3.5. I was just going to say the same thing.
Version 3.5.
Yeah. It's neat.
Or whatever. What is it that used to come out on the cell phones? It was like the candy cane edition or the gingerbread, whatever updates.
What is that?
Yeah, there used to be on like, maybe it's just an Android thing. Like there'd be these updates, and they'd have like for a little while, they had these little like food names or something. It'd be like the gingerbread edition. I'm sure if I Googled it, I'd find like the different ones.
Oh,
I could have it like the 3 point cookie edition or something.
Yeah. I love that.
Yeah. But yeah, so it's good. It's anyway, so that's what's basically been going on. We wanted to just get into the space and have a nice have an episode to put out just to show off the the space, get a feel for it, and
what's upcoming. So Rogues got their people picked for
the Grand Prix.
That's exciting.
Yeah, a lot of amazing people in the Maritimes, the East Coast, competing for a belt for the women's and the men's division. So like I think a lot of the different grappling like promotional companies will have that kind of, not masters, but like that kind of championship event where, the people that have competed throughout the year at their tournaments, it's like then you get a ticket to the big show to win the belt or whatever. So
Exciting.
yeah, so
Love
we've got
that.
that coming up. That'll be in July, so that around near the end of July, which is good. So it's always okay. I always forget because COVID, we weren't able to really do anything. So anyway, so we've done quite a few of them now, so
Yeah.
which is in line. Yeah, because it's year 6 for us with Rogue. So
Wow.
yeah, I know
That's
it's hard to
awesome.
believe we're getting closer to a decade than we are like when we started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
Very exciting.
but yeah.
I've got the C4C training
Right.
course coming up in PEI. I'm looking forward to that. And yeah.
And we have another episode with an interview with Alex McKinnon from Quantum, actually, that we'll be getting him back again. And I know the timeline seemed kind of weird. We're talking and like things have happened or things are happening. But we had a really good conversation around the prep and like the C4C training and
Yeah.
kind of how that relates to like in the club and promoting law officers in that space, which is really cool. So
Yeah.
yeah.
I'd love to see that. So Pat and I are looking forward to that. And then with judo, I've started kata. Wow. I used to, it's anyone that's a judoka that's listening to this might take offense, but I didn't really respect kata. It's like, I always kind of considered it like the dance of judo. It's like a sequence of takedowns. I call them takedowns, stand up judo moves. It's kind of like it's the dance of judo, but it's so much harder than what, like if you're watching it, to realize like the amount of detail that is in something like that. So so I'm learning kata and way more respect for it now, having tried it and realizing the difficulty of Japan is so specific on like every little detail that they want in things.
Yeah.
So yeah, huge respect for kata now. And then, yeah.
The tradition, right? Because it's very, very traditional versus jiu-jitsu, like Brazilian jiu-jitsu just being kind of like there's tradition, but there's just so much interpretation when you're like actually in flow versus all the ceremonial style to judo, right?
And the meaning of
behind
each technique.
Yeah.
It's just like, wow. So, and it's, I really like too with judo that like the names and stuff as you translate it, like there's things where you're like your view and your viewpoint and stuff, it kind of relates a lot to yoga. Like you're supposed to be looking towards the mountains, things like that. And you're like, it's like in yoga, that would be your drishti. Like you want to focus. As a beginner, I'm looking down at my feet, which is what not to do. You're instantly breaking your posture. So much of it relates. It's interesting how it relates to jiu-jitsu, how it relates to yoga, how it relates to different things. But
that's cool.
Yeah, so that's been fun.
Speaking of looking, I hear you in my head now when like I'm rolling and I'm like, straight.
Yeah.
Don't be looking at people. Look up.
Look up.
So
look
you're
up.
proud of that one.
Thank you. I'm happy. That's awesome. Yeah.
As though you know where you're looking and your posture and stuff. I like hear you like, don't be
Nagging
looking
at you.
them.
Don't look down. Don't look down. Look
don't
up.
even look at them.
Yeah. Good posture. Good posture.
We'll have to get Patrick on here sometime to talk. You two get into the whole like talking about judo and the lineage and stuff because he has an eidetic memory. So he has like he's just crammed full of really cool info and facts on the heritage behind jiu-jitsu and judo. And so for those of you that like the history on stuff.
My bathroom mirror is filled with different notes, different techniques, and the translation to English from Japanese. And
oh, wow.
And I don't do it justice. Patrick is definitely.
So was he making these for you so that you had...
Well, I'm trying to geek out a little bit. It's not really like my style. Like I try to remember different things, but if I write it down, I have something each week to study new for terminology because I will say with judo, they're very specific on like you need to know the terminology. So I'm new to judo and I haven't really been tested, but I did get to go to a grading in Fredericton actually for one of the kata clinics. They did a grading afterwards for a couple guys that were getting their black belts, and they tell you the technique in Japanese and expect you to be able to do it. So like fireman carry takedown. I consider it fireman carry, and I know what that is, but it's kataguruma. So you need to know when they look at you and say kataguruma what.
Like,
yeah, so it's challenging because like I find it obviously easier to learn it in English and know what they're asking for, but if you want to do it justice, you gotta
to like say both.
Yeah.
In your head, you're like English and Japanese.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, and I mean, with jiu-jitsu, I mean, triangle, I mean, that's pretty straightforward. Like, I suppose there are a few things that we do in Portuguese, but you just have to, I suppose the more exposure you have to it, the more natural it'll become. But
that's it. Yeah.
I'm a newbie. New.
But that's a good thing because
Yeah.
like you think about when you were a newbie at jiu-jitsu and like how far you are now. So
well, and it's exciting again to get back into. It's not to say that I'm bored with jiu-jitsu. I'm not. But I feel like you hit a certain level and then like, you know, there's less new stuff that you're taking in. You're basically, I feel like the longer you've been in jiu-jitsu, the more you're modifying your technique to be like you're doing all these little modifications to make it perfect, but it's the same technique. Like you can only do so many arm bars and so many triangles. And then what you're doing is you're really honing in on the technique to like make it perfect. Right. Whereas now learning judo, there's so much I don't know. So it's exciting again. I'm like, oh, like this, like, you know, I'm always excited to go to class and I'm always looking forward to going to class. But with judo, it's like so new to me and it's nice being a beginner again.
Yeah.
Yeah. Don't take those years for granted. Like
I know
it is really fun.
I'm trying to
you just, you know,
enjoy it as you go.
Yeah.
But you just want to hurry up and know it, and know it. And it's like, oh crap.
And then you look back and you're like, oh, like, you know, make sure you're taking
again.
it all in. Yeah. Enjoying that journey for sure.
Well,
I think that's
it.
Yeah.
Yeah. Thank you everybody for being here and
catch you on the next roll.